Welcome to Console Crapshoot, where we spin a wheel to play a random video game on original hardware. Lately, it seems like we've been getting a completely different type of game every week. It's been really refreshing. I hope that continues. What's it going to be this week? And the original Xbox. Awesome. I was just thinking recently that it's been a while since we had that one. Carl's been really good to us with his choices. Let's see, we have 885 games on this wheel. Psychonauts. Nice, I love this game. The director of Psychonauts is one of my favorite game designers. His name is Tim Schafer. When I was a little kid, I was really into all the LucasArts kind of point-and-click games. He was a big part of creating a lot of those. The Monkey Island series is huge for me, and Full Throttle, just to name a few. And when he left LucasArts, he formed Double Fine Studios, and Psychonauts was the first game they made. Tim Schafer games are almost always really funny, like genuinely funny, and Psychonauts was no different. I guess you would call it a platformer, but where it really shines is its story, its humor, and its clever use of the subject matter. Psychonauts takes place in a world where there are secret agents who can mentally project themselves into the minds of others, and the game really has a lot of fun with exploring people's minds. Depending on the type of person that you go into, their mind is a whole complicated level with tons of layers, and those layers and challenges are made up of the things that make up that person's psyche. Every time you go into a new mind, there's tons of surprises, and I should mention you're not even at that secret agent level. The game takes place at a summer camp for kids who are psychic, who they're identifying and training to eventually become psychonauts. So you're like a kid who's learning all this stuff for the first time. And it's a good way of teaching the player all of these things because the character is learning all these things for the first time. As you go, they're earning merit badges every time they learn a new psychic skill. The dialogue is genuinely funny. It will actually make you laugh, and it's really clever in defining traditionally psychological terms like figments of the imagination or emotional baggage or mental cobwebs. Every world is completely different and full of amazing things to discover depending on the person whose mind you're in. Some minds are completely chaotic, some minds are incredibly organized. You go into the mind of a paranoid schizophrenic guy who is into conspiracy theories, and in his mind, everyone is a spy, and there's full of conspiracies, and there's cameras popping out of every corner taking pictures of you. This level is actually really fun and amazing, but my favorite level is when you go into the mind of a mutant lungfish, and when you go into the lungfish's mind, it's a city called Lungfishopolis, and you take the form of like a kaiju, like a Godzilla, and the little lungfish in the city are all hilarious. They're all really, really funny, and you're like knocking buildings down. It's such a fun level to play. Like the music is like Godzilla music and everyone's screaming. It's just so funny. I will say the platforming can get a little tedious and the controls are a little convoluted. There are a lot of cool powers and I love all the different powers, but there's so many things to keep track of. You have to map the powers to the white and black buttons. If you remember on the Xbox, they're kind of a little out of the way. They're a little awkward now to reach for. Maybe I'm a little spoiled. And certain bosses require you to use a bunch of powers and you are constantly pausing and switching the power that's mapped to a certain button so that you can pull off damaging that boss. Some of the actions require some very detailed kind of aiming and the aiming isn't so good. So that part of the game, while definitely not bad, it could definitely be a lot better. There's room for improvement there. Also, this game needed a mini-map. You get turned around a lot, and I found that I had to keep pausing the game, hitting left to go to the map and see which way I was facing to get to the target that I was going to. And I would go fight for a minute and then lose track of that spot again. If I had a mini-map to point where I had to go, which most of these kinds of games have, that would have been really handy. So I wouldn't say the game is perfect, but it's awesome, and I recommend playing it. You can get it now. You can get it on Xbox Live with Game Pass. I think Psychonauts 1 is on there for free, and they made a Psychonauts 2 recently, and it got rave reviews. I haven't played it yet. Those are both on Game Pass. Maybe they added a mini-map. I'm gonna have to find out. So let's go right to the rating for Psychonauts on the Xbox. Yeah, like I said, it's a classic. It's pretty great. It goes down as one of the best Xbox platformers for sure. This came out at a time where first-person shooters were exploding and they were really huge, and those are the games that made money, and this one didn't make a lot of money, but it still went down as a classic. It's really memorable. Again, I recommend playing it. It has its weaknesses, and those weaknesses show more now playing it in a modern day, but none of those weaknesses are so bad where it's not worth playing the game. I shit on the controls a little bit, but that's because it's the only thing to shit on here. The controls are fine. game. They could just be better. So with all that said, I think I'm going to give Psychonauts a 4 out of 5. This was pretty close to a 5 out of 5, but for the aforementioned reasons, solid 4, and I love it. Now all I can think about is if I have time in my life to squeeze in Psychonauts 2, I think I'm going to make time. I heard it's really good, and now I have a hunger for more of this world. All right, well, thanks everybody. Episode 70 is next week. I already know what we're going to play, and it's ridiculous. I don't know how I'm going to edit that. You'll see what I mean next week. We'll see you then.